take a look at the voltage-controlled oscillators on the Korg MS-20 Mini. One of the best ways for you to compare the Korg MS-20 Mini to the original Korg MS-20 is for me to just go through the functionality as I normally would, and you can compare it to my previous videos wherein the functionality and sound are extensively portrayed. So I'm just going to go through this and show you some of the functionality that you're probably familiar with or not. Maybe you might learn something. And you can hear for yourself what this synthesizer, this modern synthesizer, this modern analog synthesizer can do. First, we have the voltage-controlled oscillator 1 set to a triangle wave. It's at 32 feet, and there's no other function happening. The filters are all the way open or all the way closed, and the envelope is just set to sustain, so we're not hearing the envelope either. Pretty traditional triangle wave sound. Now, the cool thing about this synthesizer is this. Now, on so many vintage synthesizers, as you scroll through the octaves like that, I was just turning the octave setting knob of oscillator 1 to switch the oscillator to different octaves. In most vintage synthesizers, at least the ones I have, when you do that, you can hear that the pitch is slightly changing. It's not quite in tune across all of those octaves. Whereas this one is. So that's pretty awesome. Let's hear the sawtooth wave. Pretty standard sawtooth wave. And yeah, and as I am playing this, I am not having this feeling like, well, this is a device that seems like an MS-20 or this. I'm not coming away from this experience with, I'm not playing an MS-20 right now. I'm playing some fake imitation. I don't have that. This feels to me, apart from the key size, very much like the response I would get from an MS-20. And let's listen to the square wave. Now, the square wave, we have the pulse width control knob here. We'll start off with the square. That's 50% duty cycle. That is a square wave. Some of the synths I have demonstrated recently do not have square waves that sound like that, but that is a traditional square wave. And we have the ability to adjust its pulse width. As is traditional, you can get the pulse width from 50%, which is this, to 100%, which is this. So if your oscillator 1 isn't working, check to see if it's set to square and that the pulse wave is set to 100% because you won't hear it. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to modulate the pulse width, and that's the way it was with the original MS-22. When you want a perfect recreation of something from long ago, you need to take the good with the bad. And there is no pulse width modulation, although there is something that sounds vaguely like it that I will show you later. But yeah, if you want pulse width modulation on the MS-20, whether it's Mini or original, this is how you get it. You have to provide your own voltage control on this synth. But that's that sound. And we have extremely exciting noise. That's noise. Okay, that's oscillator 1. Let's listen to oscillator 2. Oscillator 2 also has the saw. Oscillator 2 has a different grouping of octave settings, whereas oscillator 1 has 32 feet, 16 feet, 8 feet, and 4 feet. Oscillator 2 has 16 feet, 8 feet, 4 feet, and 2 feet. So you can actually go higher with oscillator 2. And you can actually go lower with oscillator 1. But yeah, that's again how it was designed back then, and it's a useful design. We also have a square wave, but we don't have the ability to adjust the pulse width on the square wave in oscillator 2. We do, of course, have octaves. And we do have a pulse wave. So we have, the 50% square wave. And this pulse wave, I don't know what the percentage is. We'll say 75%. I don't know. Someone probably knows, and I'm probably wrong. But it's a useful waveform and timbre. Okay, here's where we get to the fun part. Oscillator 2 has what is marked ring. And this is a ring modulator. And this ring modulator, the way that it operates is it takes the signals from oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 and provides the sum and differences of those two oscillators. When it's perfectly in tune, it makes what sounds vaguely like a sort of pulse width modulation sort of sound. Although somewhat cooler. Because there's some frequencies in there that are not harmonic series frequencies, which is the whole point of the ring modulator. To add harmonic, non-harmonic, harmonic content. We can also bring oscillator 1 in, which is just going to emphasize the oscillator 1 part of it. But anyway, to get the true ring modulator effect, it's kind of like how it was with the pulse width modulation. To get the effect, you're going to have to manually turn the pitch knob of oscillator 2. There are some ways to modulate the pitch of oscillator 2, but you always end up modulating the pitch of oscillator 1 along with it. And if there's a routing that I can think of that if you modulate the pitch of oscillator 2 alone, you're also removing the ability for the keyboard to control it. So then it becomes sort of pitchless, but you have modulation control over it. So if you just want to do effects like this, that's possible in the patching, in a way, with the patching. But in general, the ring modulator sound is usable as a tuned sound, which is nice because so often ring modulators are just crazy noise that you can really only use for crazy noise effects. Not even using a filter, and we're already into that gritty MS-20 sound.